Jing Da De Sen Ting Wei Zi Fa Hui Ji Yi Jie Zhong Sen Qin Zhuan Miao Fa Lun Jiao Da Wo Men Wu He Lao San Do Si Li Ku Le Su Zhen Wu Sen. Will the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye hulahudi samya sanputoshe.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahadi samyao samputoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous, excuse me, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture. Nice to see you all this evening. Thank you for taking time out on a Saturday to come look into the Avatamsaka Sutra with us. We're going to get started in just a minute, and we welcome also folks who are joining us online. We've been doubling the numbers of virtual Sutra listeners to flesh and blood analog Sutra listeners recently, which is okay. We'll take it. If you it is now the 28th of October, and the solstice was on September 21st, if people recall. That's the night and day same length time of the year. It's a binary thing. There's another time. We had the autumnal equinox. That's the equinox. Spring is called the vernal equinox. And equinox. What is nox in Latin? It's equal time for day and night. Now we're through that, and we're, another 30-some days has gone by, and so rapidly the sun is setting earlier. It's actually, that is not happening. That's our perception of it. We're, save the astronomy, right? But we're traveling up, and so from our perspective, we're going further away from the sun. If you were to go to the lower half of our planet, we're heading towards summer. We are in spring, correct, in the southern hemisphere. So, longer night, shorter day, and people prefer to stay home. rather than getting in a car and burning fossil fuel to get to the monastery. So that's okay. We'll take you any way we can get you. But those of you who are listening online, our tech rep is here alertly watching the chat box. If you have a question that you would care to share with me, I will be happy to share it with everybody through Jerry. I've told Jerry, our man on the spot, to pass on to me any questions that come in from online, so that we can keep everybody who is joining via computer through the live stream of YouTube channel Dharma Realm Live. We want people to stitch in to the talk. So please do go ahead, ask questions, and Jerry will say there's a question online, and we'll field it and respond appropriately. Okay, so, and that includes everybody here, all of you flesh and blood types. Have a question, please raise your hand. We have a Vietnamese translation going on in the balcony, so if anybody is interested in listening to the Vietnamese rendering of what I'm saying, Mai is happily up there with her headset, and people can listen up in the balcony. It's a nice perspective. We have a very nifty balcony here in the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, and you can see and hear just fine. At the same time, you can hear a Vietnamese translation. So, okay, we're going to turn to the front cover of your text and invoke the spirit of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We're going to chant the name of the Avatamsaka Sutra. So please join in. Namo Tafang Gongfu Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Go Pu Sa Namo Tafang Gongfu Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Go Pu Sa Nam Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Go Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Go Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. All right. Okay, I want you to crack open your text here. You'll find pages 18 and 19. Last page, last two pages. For those of you who are not regular attendees, let me tell you what we're doing. This is the Flower Garland Sutra, Words of the Buddha. Words the Buddha spoke. Our teacher spent 9 years explaining it. Every line, every night. Took him 9 years to finish. Whew. So you get a clue how big, how long this text is. Big, long text. And the sutra has 40 chapters in it. And we're looking at chapter 21. 27? 27. 10 grounds, 27. And this chapter talks about the Bodhisattva. What's a Bodhisattva? How do they think? How do they act? What moves them? And it takes us right into their minds. It's like it opens a window in their hearts, and you get to look right in. So it's a very human, a living document. You can identify. You can go, I see why that person thinks that way. And the other thing is, it's there's no name and no face on this person, but likewise, there's no gender either. He's not a male, he's not a female, he's not rich, he's not poor. He doesn't come from the house up on the hilltop, he doesn't come from down in the barrio. She's completely faceless that way, which allows me to project myself into that individual. I can imagine what it would be like to have those thoughts and have those experiences, which is neat because it becomes very personal. Make no mistake, this is what you call a spiritual classic. It's it has the status of the Bible, all right, in that it's a scripture, which has actually, not that anybody's counting or competing, but it's been around longer than the Bible by 500 years. But somehow all of that stuff doesn't matter. When you get this sutra and it makes sense, the way we tried it, our teacher brought it alive and the way I like to bring it alive, it's as fresh as the way he described it. He said it's like a mirror. You look in the mirror, you see your face. You look in and it reflects you honestly, the way a mirror does, with all the warts and the crookedness, but all the potential for perfection that you see in the mirror. So it's that fresh. When I read the Avatamsaka, I've been reading this text now for 40 years, and I never have a feeling that there are any blocks in the way to my understanding of it, except the ones that I hold up. It talks to me. It talks right to you. It's fresh as today's news, and it's as ancient as any book alive. Right? You're holding a 2,500-year-old book. You're looking at it there. That gets me. I like that. It brings me back over and over again. And the other thing is, we're looking at it in English and Chinese. In fact, we got three kinds of Chinese there, if you notice. Some of us, because we say, oh, I don't speak Chinese, I don't read Chinese, so our eyes slipped right over those symbols there. But check out those symbols. This is something that I want you all to appreciate. Okay, let's look at the top. Page 18, there's a character up there. It says, and underneath it says L-I-A-N-G with a mark that goes down, right? Liang. And on the side, vertically beside the character, there's tiny squiggles, right? And that's Liang with a tone. Next to it, S-H-E-N, Shen, with a tone over the top. And then there's the character above with the vertical squiggles and the fourth tone, right? Those are two different ways to use symbols to give you the sound Liang, Shen. Now, if you can read the character, you just go right to the character. You don't need the L-I-A-N-G-S-H-E-N or the squiggles, right? But our layout person wants people to have access to these sounds, so they gave the character, the ABC spelling, it's called a pinyin, Hanyu pinyin, and then the Taiwanese phonetic spelling on the side. That's cool. We got 3 versions of Chinese, and then underneath it, down below, over to the right, we got the English. And someday, wouldn't it be nice if we had the Spanish there? Okay, and I'm looking at a couple people. Oh, so Homero turns around. Oh, you looking? Yeah. The old guy behind you, right? Roberto. Okay. Yes. Graciela, you got some work here. Mani, you got some work here. So, you guys, yeah, you get the young one in here. I'm so glad. There he is. This twice we got him. Boy, that's pretty special. Young translators. All right. So, why not? We were in Poland not a month ago, and this sutra is not in Polish, but the Shurangama Sutra is. 6 patriarchs in Polish. Here we are. People are going, eh. I look at it and go, that looks like Polish. Polish has lots of sh in it. So I don't speak it. But how wonderful. And Chinese was not the original language. Chinese is a translated. It was originally in some form of Indian language, probably Sanskrit, or whatever the Buddha was speaking, which is a kind of dialect. So, very fluid bunch of wisdom coming down to us in 2017 as if it were spoken by the Buddha 5 minutes ago, showing us our face. Very neat. Living tradition. So that's what we're about. And what a privilege to be able to sit here with everybody and go, oh, what does it say? How neat. To have access to it in Vietnamese upstairs. And now in English. All right. So tonight, we begin page 18. And we're on In Those Lands. Let's see. Okay, we're going to go back. 16, 17, on the bottom. We'll get the whole thought. We actually explained it before, but to get the whole thought, we'll start on the last line of page 16, and then the last 2 of 17, and then go further. Do you? Oh, okay. Oh, I got my text missed out on those, but I've got it worked out. We'll make it just to the bottom of 18, 19 tonight. But thank you. Yeah. Okay. 16. So, ready? I'm going to put my palms together, and I'll read the Chinese, give you a couple words, and then you give it back to me. All right? Ready? Here we go. 佛子是菩萨，先以身起行，今住此地。Okay, we're going to turn over. 得无量身。Okay, 18, the top here. 无量音声，无量智慧，无量寿生，无量净果，教化无量众生，供养无量诸佛，入无量法门，具无量神通，有无量众会，道场差别，住无量身。Let's see. Let me try this again. Let's divide that one this way. 住无量身与意业，即一切菩萨行，以不动法故。Okay. Usually those lines are the same length of characters. They were different there. Back to page 17. We're going to read together, do unison reading instead of call and response. We're on page 17 at the bottom, Disciples of the Buddha. We're ready? Here we go. Disciples of the Buddha, before the Bodhisattva used his only body to cultivate his practices, but now, as he stays upon this ground, he gets limitlessly many bodies, limitlessly many voices, limitlessly many wisdoms, limitlessly many births, and limitlessly many pure lands. Okay, pause. Here we go. Let's continue. In those lands, he teaches limitlessly many sentient beings, makes offerings to limitlessly many Buddhas, enters limitlessly many Dharma doors, becomes replete with limitlessly many psychic powers, has limitlessly many different assemblies in Bodhimandas, abides in limitlessly many deeds of body, speech, and mind, and amasses all the practices of a Bodhisattva. All these accomplishments happen because of this unmoving Dharma. Okay, so let's unpack that, see what that meant. We heard limitlessly many a lot, many times, right? We heard actually 10 different kinds of things that are called limitlessly many. What are we talking about? Let's take a step back. This is the chapter called the 10 Grounds chapter, 10 Stages chapter, 10 Levels chapter. We're on number 8 out of 10. The 10 Grounds chapter describes the Bodhisattva, an awakened person. It's like a tech manual. It's a how-to. If you wanted to learn how to use Adobe Photoshop, suppose you did. Suppose you decided you want to be a photographer. You wanted to process your photos online. Where would you go? Probably go to YouTube and get a how-to video. Welcome to Adobe Photoshop. In this next video, and you'd learn how to use the software, right? It would teach you how. You click on this menu, here are the functions like that. That's what I would do. If I wanted to learn new software, I'd go online and get a video, right? The 8th ground is just like that. It says how bodhisattvas should behave. Now, it's the words of the Buddha, and what he is doing mostly, what we found here, is he's showing how your mind operates. How does your mind work? That's a lot of what this sutra is, particularly this chapter. And if you think about it, where else do you get those kind of instructions? How do you use your mind? Well, when I was in college, I was drawn to psychology. Ooh, I thought psychology must have been very cool. Because of all the things that there were to study in college, and I was mostly into Chinese. That's what carried me through. But I thought of all the things there were to learn, talk about history, talk about mathematics, talk about science, talk about social science like sociology, or maybe something more practical like computing or accounting, something. What I wanted to learn about was people. I wanted to learn about the mind, right? So where do you go? Psychology, right? I was disappointed because what I discovered was that psychology was taught through some pretty narrow lenses. One of them being Freud, Sigmund Freud, who was the father, clearly the father of psychiatry, the medical study of the mind. And mostly, Freud, he was the very first to make a science of it. He studied people's problems. Neurosis, psychosis, schizophrenia, paranoia, paranoid schizophrenia. That's what Freud was the best at. He didn't flip it over to the positive side and say, oh, let me tell you about my experiences with compassion. Let me tell you about the human mind at its most kind. Let me tell you about the function of forgiveness. Let's look at something like generosity. Didn't go there, wasn't there. Now, his student and later, say, competitor, Carl Jung, a Swiss psychotherapist, went on and found some very interesting stuff. So Jung was a little more humane. He talked about archetypes, patterns that you find in the deeper processes of the mind. That was okay. But as an undergraduate college student, I wanted to learn about the mind. What can I learn about me? What can I learn about what I'm capable of? What people do? My first class was taught by the world's expert on cognitive dissonance. Right? This professor who was only interested in research. To keep his job in the college, they forced him to teach a class. So what did he teach? He taught his book. He'd written a book about cognitive dissonance. 12 weeks of lectures on cognitive dissonance. I didn't go back. I thought, well, this is psychology, right? It's like, what is cognitive dissonance? When you know something is wrong, it's going to conflict in your mind and you have to deal with it. What happens when you have an irreconcilable difference? That was his specialty, that big, and that was what he taught, the entire damn class. 12 weeks of cognitive dissonance. And I thought, that doesn't leave me with much to work with, you know. So I bombed out of psychology with that introduction. And sure, if I'd found an intro to psychology when a good professor, I might have carried through. But that was my own experience. And so, okay, no surprise that on Thursday night here at the Berkeley Monastery, for the last 22 years, we've had Spirit Rock East Bay. They're now called the East Bay Insight Meditation Group. That group, they're Vipassana style meditators, and they've done a lot of, they've done some career surveys. What you know, how do you earn your keep? And of the people who come, 1/3 are psychotherapists. 1/3 of the 80 people a week who come are psychotherapists. Why? Because they found, the way I found, wow, the Buddha understood the mind and he explained it in a positive way and said, here you go, here's how. Try this. If your experience is like mine, here's what I found, take the next step. And where did he explain it? At a high level in this chapter. So as we go through the 10 Grounds chapter, the Buddha is unpacking the mind, not only used wrong, but used right. There's the yang side of this as well as the yin side. It's not that he doesn't talk about psychosis, neurosis, paranoia, schizophrenia, and attachments and things. He uses different vocabulary, and he says, yeah, those are called the mind used wrong. Here's what you do to set it straight. Here's how you untie that knot. That's a knot. Untie it. Fundamentally, we're not knotted. Our minds are not knotted up. But if you knot your mind up, here's how you undo the knot. So it's like, oh, thank you. The Buddha is a profound psychotherapist. And he says what? Do it yourself. DIY. Here's how. I did it. You can do it too. Here's how. You know, and you go, yes. This is the psychology I was looking for. Right? So, how neat. How neat to have this be a how-to manual for the mind. Okay, we're on the 8th ground, and this Bodhisattva is way up there. I mean, this is out there. This is profound. This is the results of a meditator who has gone far in his or her meditation. When this person sits down to meditate, they get really quiet. They get very still. And the deeper contents of the mind come to awareness, right? This is a in-depth, right? You get that microscope going deep in the mind. But I want to say, the sutra gives us these hints that it's still your mind. This is not Superman's mind. This is not, Spider-Man's, that kind of thing. It's not a Marvel character who's got superpowers. It's you when the Dharma is applied at length. Rufa, systematically the way it's taught. If you do it that way, you can get here too. Every now and then it shines through and you go, you're right. Human mind, not a Marvel character. Right? Okay. We caught up, so we're at the 8th. Let me give you we'll get to the 8th ground right now. The the 8th ground is 2 steps from completion of this chapter, meaning this phase of the Bodhisattva's practice. Something happened after the 7th ground. The Bodhisattva, this person in training, got to a crossroads. And the crossroads, which one do you take? What if you go left? What happens? What if you go right? What happens? What if you go straight ahead? What happens? So there's an intersection in the Bodhisattva's life right here. And the sutra presents it exactly that way. And it says, if you go this way, you know this is going to happen. However, and then the sutra says, that's brand X. That's a Don't want to go that way. Don't go that way. But you might. And it shows why someone might do that and what happens if you do. But then it says, if you have made your resolve to continue, if you want to get through the 10 grounds and go beyond them to Buddhahood, the Buddhas, plural, show up to you and start to cheer you on. Go right. Turn right. Go to the right. We want you to do that. And for the last 6 or 7 lectures here, the Bodhisattva, the Buddhas have been going, hey, here's why you should go right. We want you to go to the right because if you do, you'll be able to save living beings. And they're suffering like crazy. Don't forget your vows. They kind of give them a little guilt trip. Don't forget, you promised, and they're really hurting, so you know. Then recently, what they're doing in the last couple lectures was they're saying, you know, if you go to the right, here's what you get. There's incredible stuff waiting for you. That's what we heard the last 2 weeks. Here's the summary of it. What do they say? Disciples of the Buddha, before, that's to say from your beginning all the way through grounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you just had your one body to cultivate with, like us, right? But once you turn right at the crossroads, once you make the right choice, you have, and then we get 10 limitlessly manys right there. Okay, this is where this comes from. As you stay on the 8th ground, you get a lot of bodies to work with, to teach with, to cultivate with. You get lots of voices to speak Dharma, to sing, to encourage, to recite mantras with. You get all kinds of wisdom to work on troubles, to solve stuff for people. You get all kinds of births. Who would want more births? Well, somebody who's teaching at a high level. You get limitlessly many pure lands. Think about that. You get all these places where you can send people who are, people you care about who are suffering. You say, here you go. Send you over there. Suffering's over for you. All right? What if that was somebody who got off at Coffee Park after the curfew was lifted and drove in to find a chimney and ashes? Right? We were, last Sunday, we had a gathering over in Marin in the afternoon, and of the 30-some people in the room, 2 of them had siblings, brothers and sisters, who were burned out, who were burned away, whose home was gone. Imagine. And if that was you, and these are folks like you, one of them got evacuated with 5 minutes to go. The knock on the door and said, "Come now, look out your window." They looked out the window and the flames were there. They said, being blown by the wind faster than people could run. The flames were coming that fast. They said, clothes on your back, take whatever you can take on your way out to the car, leave the rest and go. Right? So there were 2 people in our group whose siblings, it wasn't them because they lived elsewhere, but their siblings were burned down. And that's everything. And they say the stuff that people want most are the last letters from their uncle before he went to war, their children's graduation photos, the bonnet that belonged to their great-grandmother, their wedding dress. That's the stuff that people want and can't replace, you know. It's not the stocks and bonds. It's not the cars. It's the personal mementos that mean everything in your heart, you know. So, Bodhisattva goes, I've got a Pure Land for you right here, waiting for you, you know. Come and try it. See what you think. First of all, it'll heal your heart. Everything you need is there, and then we'll put you to work to build up your spirit, you know. Imagine, limitlessly many of those. Would you take it? I'd take it. Would you? Yes. What would? Yes. I'd take it. Thank you. So, how wonderful. These are answers to a prayer you didn't know you could pray, right? What else? That's only 4 limitlessly manys. What else has he got? In the lands, those limitlessly many lands, the Bodhisattva teaches limitlessly many sentient beings. That means shows them how to get past their pain, how to stop being confused, how to know everything in every situation and what to do, right? Make offerings to limitlessly many Buddhas. This might seem like a foreign one. Why do you want to make offerings to Buddhas? This is, I'm speaking for myself. Before I turned to the Avatamsaka Sutra in particular, but the Mahayana tradition in general, it never occurred to me that making an offering to a Buddha was anything that had any interest to me whatsoever. But that's because in my Methodist Protestant tradition growing up, there was you put money in the plate, pass the plate in church. That was a good thing to do, clearly. But there's no sense of I gave it to Jesus, you know, or I gave it to God. It was for the good of the church, and it's a good thing to do, you know. The organ swells, and the pastor says, and remember, it is always more blessed to give than to receive. And then the ushers would walk down the aisle and they wink at you with their, you know, looking natty and have the plate passed along. And if you didn't have your checkbook and if you didn't have any money, you'd kind of put your hand in the plate and pass it on as if you pretend, next time, I'll do it, next time. You know, it was people were watching. What did you put in the plate? You know. So, I mean, that's a good thing to do. It supports the church. It encourages generosity. It's good. The Bodhisattva in this land makes offerings to limitlessly many Buddhas. Okay, so how does that work? It's because of a principle called field of blessings. Field of blessing. Does the Buddha want stuff? That's not the idea. It's that if I have something that is valuable to me, and that can be what? It can be that. Flower. It can be this, done with a sincere heart. Omitofo. It can be food. It can be pure water. It can be incense. Things that please the senses. It can be robes. It can be, you know, a Mercedes-Benz, if you're enabled. It's whatever you can share. It helps you give away yourself, the false self. Because coming with that material thing is the spirit behind it. So what's a fine offerings to the Buddha would be food for his disciples. Coming and making a meal for the monks and nuns and laity in the monastery. A wonderful offering. Okay, that never occurred to me that was good. By supporting the lifestyle of people who are living in a pure way, you get the good stuff. you get the merit. Connie. Coming at you there.
On the Europe trip, I was trying to make some offerings to the nuns, Heng Sure, and there were a couple of times where she was like kind of refusing it because she was like, no, I don't need it. It'll just, and then I would respond, well, but you're like my field of blessings. But and then she would respond with, well, but then if I take it, then I'm losing my blessings. Is that true?
Is that true?
Is that?
Are you forcing that nun to lose her blessing?
I didn't know there
Shame
was such
on
a
you,
thing
right?
for monks and nuns.
Cruel layperson. Huh? Take it. No, said the nun. Okay, Connie's question said she was in a situation where she was making offerings to some nuns, and the nuns didn't accept because they said, I don't want it, I don't need it, and if I take it, I will be losing my blessings. Connie said, but you are my field of blessings, so you should take it. Okay, so, no, it's real, and it's good that you point that out because there is a cognitive dissonance happening right there. Ha. Thank you, Professor Cahill. There's a contradiction, a conundrum. There's a 矛盾 right there, a dilemma, two horns here. It was explained to me this way. A senior monk came from China. His name was Master Haideng Ocean Lamp. He was 50 times the All China Martial Arts Competition winner. He is about 5'1". He's the monk who rebuilt Shaolin Monastery. He is famous for his Yi Zhi Chan Gong, his one finger stand. All right? This is a monk who can do not a handstand, not that kind, not a one handstand, not a three finger, but a one finger. Now, his finger was pretty fat. It's true. But it was a one finger stand. I saw him do it. Nobody else has done it in the history of martial arts. Master Haideng, there's films about him. He was a Buddhist monk, right? But he had this skill called Tongzigong, the pure youth martial art, and he had a punching bag, the big punching bags, the big body bags, the boom, boom, Master Haideng would go through the bag with his middle finger. He ruined a lot of bags that way. They wouldn't let him do it after a while. Okay, this is Master Haideng. Master Haideng came to visit Shifu before, this is 1985, this is before the Water, Land, and Air in 87. He came with producers from the China Central Film Studio who hadn't gotten out for a long time, hadn't come to America. This is a historic visit. So I'll save you, there's a lot of stories from this visit. But Master Haideng arrived wearing his monk's robe, no precept sash, they don't wear it. He carried his precept sash. And his luggage was an airlines bag. You remember back in the day when you went on the airline, they gave you those little zipper bags. You could probably put, 2 loaves of bread in it. It was an airlines bag. That was what they gave it to us. And Master Haideng had one. That was his luggage. And what did he have in his airlines bag? He had a robe, a toothbrush, and a hooded sweatshirt. That's all. That was his possessions. Now, mind you, he had gone through the Cultural Revolution and survived. But he had nothing. So, oh my goodness, the lay people saw him. Oh, Venerable Sir, we have to get you a suitcase. So somebody made an offering. He went, Gong De Wu Liang. Who wants it? Gave it to the first person he saw. Somebody saying, oh, Venerable Sir, you need a wristwatch so you'll be on time. Huh, wristwatch, huh, gongda wuliang. Who wants it? He didn't accept anything. Nothing. We said, Shifu, is this right? To Master Hua. Shifu said, what do you all see? He said, well, Haidong Fasher's not accepting anything. Can we be pure like him? And then we said, Master Haidong, why are you not accepting anything? He said, 来生配貌带脚换. In future lives, you'll come back as a beast of burden. You'll come back with horns on your head and fur on your body because you tied yourself into a debt with people when you took stuff. We're going, let me see, how much stuff have I accepted since I've left home? I'm probably going to be many lifetimes. Do I get to pick what animal I am? Can I come back as a golden retriever? How about a basset hound? So we said, Shifu, what about this? Shifu went, okay. He said, Master Haidong is an extraordinary cultivator. He probably sees cause and effect, but you have to understand that he left home to cultivate the way because bandits murdered his father. He left home so he could have ultimate ability to subdue evil. He is like a Vajra protecting spirit in that regard. He said, if you never accept anything that people offer you, you will never have affinities or living beings to cross over. He said, stick to the middle way. It's okay to accept things because then you and living beings will have affinities. And then when you teach Dharma, there will be somebody to listen to you. And then Master Hua said, Haidong Fasher, would you like to lecture on the Shurangama Sutra for these Americans? Haidong Fasher goes, if you tell me to, I will accept your instructions. Shifu was trying to get him to tie up some Dharma affinities with Americans because Master Haidong was very pure and, special case. So we went, okay, Shifu, that means we can eat lunch tomorrow, right? He says, you can eat lunch tomorrow. Just go ahead. Just don't be greedy, he said. So how hard is it to be a teacher? Master Hua is trying to set up the Dharma in the West and allow the Bodhisattva path to flourish and to give lay people a chance to cultivate blessings and to give monks and nuns a chance to act as fields of blessings. So Connie, that's a long answer to your question, but when I see Heng Sure, I'm going to tell her that story, and she didn't hear Shifu, she wasn't there then. What's that? Heng Sure? Okay, she's even younger. She needs to hear that, yeah. Because you can go wrong. We would have gone wrong. We would have gone, we can't accept anything because Haidong Fasher doesn't accept anything, so we can't accept anything either, When we had a perfectly good example, Master Hua, who's trying to steer us back to the middle way. It's not easy, is it? I mean, there is no established Sangha order in America yet. We're doing it as we go. And the middle way always requires course correction. You go too far, you come back. You're not far enough, you push forward. Right? Getting the middle way is hard. And it's a moving target. It's not fixed. So that's a good question. And for the young nun to say, I can't accept anything, I don't want it because... And then you're right, Connie, to say you have to act as a field of blessing, please, otherwise living being. Now, if you go to other traditions, there are other traditions, I can think of a couple, I won't necessarily name them, where the lay people are told that their entire life of cultivation is making offerings and supporting the Sangha. They don't teach them how to meditate, right? There are entire traditions where the monk's job is to say, Very good. Oh, in the future, you know how happy you will be because you have made these wonderful offerings, supporting the Sangha, keeping the Sangha pure. You yourself will have blessings abundant. Your children will be able to go to college. Everything you want will come to you. Your life will be very good. Blessings, right? They never say, okay, let's all meditate together. How's your Huato? Pay attention to your meditation topic. You can become a Buddha. That's not part of that tradition. So that's too far the other way. That's all blessings, no wisdom. Master Haidong was all wisdom, no blessings. Right? So finding the middle way is pretty special. So I'll tell, next time I see Heng Sure, I'll tell her that story. Okay, our Bodhisattva is still here getting limitlessly, okay, he enters limitlessly many Dharma doors. We're not translating it that way these days. We're saying masters for enters. For Dharma doors is Chinglish, Faman, literal translation. We're saying methods of practice. Okay, Dharma gateways into the Dharma. So meditation is a Dharma door. Bowing is a gateway into the Dharma. Cultivating repentance is a gateway into the Dharma. Practicing generosity and planning blessings is a gateway into the Dharma. Okay, you got it? Dharma doors. So this translation is fluid as well, right? It's a work in progress. Becomes replete with limitlessly many psychic powers. Ho, ho, ho. This one is not so big in America. In Taiwan, psychics galore. Friend of mine, a friend of mine's mom took her, the friend, to see a psychic, Taiwan, a new one, and this psychic burps. When they enter their trance, you pay the money, you ask your question, and then they start burping. Burp, belch, belch, burp, burp, and they shake their head and they say, oh, okay. And your question was, bad health in the family? What are you practicing? Oh, I've been reciting the Great Compassion Mantra 108 times a day. Bad idea. Stop that, said the psychic. Bad idea. The only people who should recite the Great Compassion Mantra are monks and nuns. Why? If you recite the Great Compassion Mantra, all the ghosts and spirits are going to come to you and ask you for stuff, and then they'll overcome you, and then you're in big trouble. And this good woman who's been reciting the Great Compassion Mantra 108 times a day for like a year and a half now, and her life is finally stabilized and balanced, because the psychic who she pays, this spiritual peddler, right? Person out there hangs the shingle up. Come and ask me questions, pay me, and I'll give you really bad advice. This person directed her away from proper Dharma and discouraged her cultivation. And the mom is pretty gullible when it comes to psychics, and she'll probably stop. And because she's been really working harder than ever before in her life has been stable. Her children and husband have been, harmonious. And in Taiwan, boy, people go gaga over psychic powers. Stockbrokers advertise they have psychic powers, and they tell you which stock to buy. And if they advertise that they have special knowledge, of course, you come to ask them which stock to day trade, right? The ones who are honest and say, no, I just use my portfolio, my knowledge of the stock market. They don't advertise they've got psychic powers. They don't get the business, right? And boy, it hasn't come to America yet, this kind of craze for special knowledge. Knowledge beyond what your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body and mind can bring you. Shantong Miao Yung. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Oh, I know your past lives. Oh, I see what's going on in the heavens and the hells. Really? And immediately there's this greed to know something extra that your ears and eyes and nose and mind and body can't tell you. Oh, people throw that at the monks all the time. Oh, it's amazing. And if the monks, boy, all it would take for me to capitalize on that would be to raise my eyebrow when people say, "Oh, Fa Shi, thank you so much. The weather was beautiful today, Fa Shi. Thank you. It's so compassionate." All I'd have to do would be to go, "No problem." And they'd be like, "Fa Shi, my grandma is going to have an operation. Should she do it during the full moon?" "Oh, your grandmother, huh? Full moon, huh? What kind of operation?" "Oh, I don't know. If you brought pho next week, maybe I could give you an answer, you know." "Okay, Fa Shi, what kind of pho?" It's okay, you know. Oh, man. It would take nothing to play to that, so that pretty soon they're manipulating me to manipulate them, right? And it's just one thought away. One thought of 不满现实, you know. My limitations right now, I'm not going to honestly work hard to overcome those limitations. I want to get there quick. I don't want to get in line at 65 miles an hour. I want to slip over to the left lane and go 80 miles an hour. And make you think that I have special knowledge because you throw it at me, the monk. Right? "Oh, he's a monk. He must have..." We've all seen the movie. Right? We've seen it a million times on the screen. So monks must have it, right? So here's Marty. We're leaving KL Airport for Sabah Sarawak, going over to Borneo, to East Malaysia. And we get off. It's related, but you have to go through customs, right? So we get off the airplane in Kuching, and so the man who's stamping the passports goes, "Huh, American, huh?" "Yeah, American." "Buddhist, huh?" "Yeah." "You're a monk, huh?" "Yeah, American Buddhist monk." Says, "Can you fly?" Marty says, "Only after I get on the airplane." And the guy says, "You're not real. The real ones can fly," says the customs agent, you know. So it's commonly assumed that if you're a monk, you better have those special powers. And all it would take for Marty would be to say, "Well, I can't fly, but my teacher can, and he taught me," you know. And one thought different, which is, "You're throwing it at me, why don't I ride it? Let's see how far I can take you," you know. And boy, one step outside that door, it's really hard to come back. It's really hard. So Master Hua, but he left me and Heng Zhang Fa Shi in Six Turtles, Liu Gui, Southern Taiwan, 1989. This is our first big overseas assignment. 2 monks. And you should know that Kaohsiung is in the south, and the number one mode of faith in the south is Taoism, not Buddhism. Buddhism has to compete down there. So it's southern. It's kind of like Baptist down in Alabama, if you know what I'm talking about. So you're down there, and what do Taoist priests spend a lot of time working with? Miracles and magic in the body and stuff. So there's lots of miracles. Ghosts and spirits, you know, and the elements. So before Shifu leaves, he said, "Yeah." He says, "Listen to me." He said, "You may not give anybody the impression that you have anything special." He says, "You don't understand how powerful that is down here." He said, "They're going to kneel in front of you. They're going to cry in front of you. They're going to take your hand and put it on top of their heads and ask you to bless them, to jatsu. And he said, and most of all, when they have trouble, they're going to come to you and ask for psychic healing. He said, 你不要好得意，以为你有什么了不起. He said, don't give yourself any airs and think you are special. He says, if you try to heal that tiger spirit that's infecting that person, and that tiger spirit takes you down to the hells, I'm going to pay no attention to you. You're on your own. You understand? And I'm going, tiger spirit, sure. I grew up in Toledo, sure. We don't have tiger spirits in Toledo. He said, just tell them to bow to Guanyin Bodhisattva. That, in fact, is the best method. If you think that you have anything special to give these people, he said, you are not there yet. He said, just cultivate the way. Be kind to people and tell them to bow to Guanyin Bodhisattva. And things will, if they're supposed to get better, they will get better. He said, and that way you'll make it out of here alive. He said, understand? So, boy, oh boy, that was the best advice, because as soon as Shifu left, people would come to me, their children had congenital birth defects, and they wanted me to put my hands on the child and heal the child, and people would come with spirit possessions. Clearly they'd been messing around with something beyond theirs, and they wanted me to come and put my hands on their heads, And I said, let's all go bow to Guanyin Bodhisattva together, okay? Bow, and they'd bow for about 10 minutes. They get bored. This monk's got nothing special. And then they would go away looking for somebody who they could fool, and who would be willing to fool them, who was perfectly happy to be fooled, right? And fooled. So it takes two people to step into that realm, and boy, it's hard to come back. And you think, what if the monks don't have psychic powers, what do they have? What about the mind? What about virtue? What about becoming the best possible human being you can be? What about refusing to get angry? Wow. What about sitting still with a pure mind and letting your wisdom emerge so that you can reflect without effort on 10,000 things around you, and with your vows to help other people and be unselfish, you actually see through a tiny bit of your constructed self. Bodhisvaha, Sopoha, the proper Dharma. What about tending the mind ground until you and the Buddha and all living beings are one? Doesn't happen in a hurry. It's kind of slow, but it's steady, and every single Buddha has walked this road. Walk this road, Oh yeah, but Shifu, I want to see to the heavens and the hells and get rich cheating people. Oh, boy, that has a short shelf life. Doesn't last. There's lots and lots of ex-monks and nuns who went for the fast lane and wound up, being psychic stockbrokers in Taiwan, I suppose. Anyway, so that's kind of a riff on psychic powers. Doesn't seem real here in Taiwan. Oh boy, people do. People have psychic powers in Taiwan. They'll tell you about them. They'll sell them to you. Limitlessly many different assemblies and bodhimandas. Yeah, not differences. Difference is a typo. Limitlessly many different assemblies. Here's another whole thing, right? I didn't know in the Avatamsaka, until I got to the Avatamsaka, that one of the main things that bodhisattvas do, as the sutra describes it, is go hear the Dharma. Travel to hear the Dharma from many different Buddhas. And it says in chapter 40, Samantabhadra's Practice and Vows, says they might wind up in a Dharma assembly made up of devas. They go to hear the devas, the gods. They go to the gods to listen to Dharma. They might go to Indra's net, right? Beautiful place. They might go to the Dharma assemblies of arhats, hearing about the Four Noble Truths. They might go to the Dharma assemblies of dragons, where the dragons hear the Dharma. Amazing, right? They might go to Buddha's Dharma assemblies. When you're doing that, what happens? Your wisdom grows, it says. Okay? Neat. They might abide in limitlessly many deeds of body, speech, and mind. All the things that you can do to help others and amass the practices of a bodhisattva. All these accomplishments happen because their minds are quiet now. They've taken the turn to the right. Consciousness has been transformed into wisdom. They're different now. When you take that turn to the right, actually your wiring gets a different octave. Here we go again. Ready? Our dramatic proof of unrealized potential until you have the method. Here it is. Ready? It was there all along, but until I put my finger on the 12th fret, it was only potential. If you know how, that high pitch comes out. Buddhahood is inside every one of us. Until you cultivate it, it's a potential. Once you do, that octave was there all along, but you didn't know. That's a neat available illustration, right? Boom, boom. It's all there, but you have to bring it out. Buddhahood is there in our minds. The Bodhisattva path is there, but until you bring it out, it's only a latent potential. So, all these accomplishments happen because the Bodhisattva has done this amazing transformation. Okay, we're now about to read one of my very favorite analogies in the entire Avatamsaka Sutra. It's on page 18 and 19. Okay, this is just one of my favorite illustrations. The Bodhisattva has turned to the right at the crossroads, has done what the Buddhas exhorted him or her to do, which is to take the next step. Keep on going. Don't stop. That's all. Keep on going. Through the crazy barrier, because at the crossroads, before he went left and right, everything looked different, and everything he knew, she knew prior to this is contradicted, is turned upside down, turned on its head, and the Buddhists say, keep going. Use vigor. One more step, and you're through it, and it's okay. Well, he did it, and what's it like? 佛子譬如乘船欲入大海，未至于海，多用功力。若至海矣，但随风去，不假人力。以至大海，一日所行，比于未至。其未至时，摄经百岁，亦不能及。Disciples of the Buddha, it's like portaging a small boat to the ocean. It requires a lot of effort to reach the water. But once you get to the shoreline and raise the sail, the boat can travel by the wind's power alone, without requiring further human strength. Under sail, the distance it can travel in one day is far more than it could have traveled in 100 years before you reach the ocean. Okay, last time it said, once the Bodhisattva turns to the right, follows the Buddha's exhortations, things are different. How different? It said, from the very first step on the Bodhisattva path all the way to that crossroads, to the seventh ground, all of the deeds of body, mouth, and mind that the Bodhisattva did through grounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all the time, you take that amount, and then you take one tiny nano-trillionth of a nanosecond of the amount of deeds the Bodhisattva can do after the change, and you try to compare the two, and then it goes into this celebration of numbers. It says 1 part in 100, 1 part in 1,000, 1 part in 1,000,000, 1 part in 1 trillion up to and including an Upanishad, the smallest particle, can't compare. Okay, so it did an Avatamsaka thing of comparing, and it said, boy, the good stuff that you can do after this is incomparable. All right? We just got a picture in this paragraph. What's it like? You have a boat on your back. It's a sailboat, but you're walking. You're going through the forest, and you got a boat. You're portaging, like portaging a canoe. Y'all, any of you Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts? Portaging, that's a word from your Boy Scout handbook. Right? You gotta, right? You don't know, it's not my Boy Scout handbook. Got an Eagle Scout here. So you're portaging a canoe. Okay, you got it on your back. You have to come from Quebec to understand the portage. So you're going through and you step over a root and you step over a rock and you go under an overhanging branch and you come into patches of sunlight through the green and you go downhill and you go uphill and you sweat a lot because why? You're carrying a boat on your back. It's a boat. You're carrying on your back. How far can you go? How much effort does it take? Right? There's a promise that up ahead there's a shoreline, water, where the boat should live. But you're in the woods, and you're huff and puff and puff. How much work? How much sweat? A lot. Okay, aha. You go through the final clearing. There's this beautiful blue shoreline with waves softly lapping, and you reach the water's edge, flip the boat over, raise the sail, push out to shore, the breeze comes up, and you're like, this is pretty smooth, smooth sailing. And away you go, effortlessly skimming along the top of the water. Because the wind is carrying your boat. How far can you go? How much effort? No way to compare slugging through the woods with the boat on your back. Okay? The Bodhisattva, 佛子菩萨摩诃萨依夫如是，积极广大善根思量，乘大乘船，道菩萨恒海，于一念请，以无之用，以无功用之，入一切智智境界，本有功永恒，经域无量，百千亿，哪有他劫所不能及。Disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva is also that way, in that he assembles the provisions of vast good roots and portages the prajna boat to the ocean of a bodhisattva's practices. His mastery of the states of omniscient wisdom in the interval of a single thought, by means of the wisdom of effortless practice, reach further than his prior effortful practices would have done in limitless hundreds of thousands of kotis of nayutas. Okay, so congratulations, Bodhisattva, you've reached a whole new level of function at this point because he or she took the Buddha's advice and pushed ahead. One more day, one more step. Didn't do anything superhuman, but didn't quit. Didn't stop. Kept on going. Got out and meditated another morning. Right? So, remember our martial arts maxim? Master Jiang Yunzhong, Jiang Shifu used to say, and for all the math-challenged people, just pay attention here. He said, one day of practice done is one part of Gongfu mastered. One day of practice missed is 10 parts of Gongfu lost. Right? You go, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. Yeah, that's the point. So, if you do it one more day, you keep your Gongfu that you gained and you add that much. Your spiritual skill, your physical ability. If you roll over and don't get out of bed to do that day's martial arts practice, you not only don't gain that bit, but it starts to unravel. Right? So, what do they say? How did the Bodhisattva get through, turn to the right, and make the grade? It's like rowing a boat. We're back to boat analogies here. Now, it's funny. Honestly, how many people have ever rowed a rowboat? Okay, good. Yeah, good. Rowboats. If you live in New York, you go to Central Park. I guess they have pedal boats in Central Park. Pedals. So a rowboat, especially if you're on a river or a creek or a stream, the idea is you want to go this way. So what do? You point the rowboat in that direction, but you sit down with your back to the direction you want to go. All right? And you've got these two chunks of wood, and then these things on the side of the boat called oarlocks that hold and swivel like that. So the motion of the oar is like this. Right? Anybody, if you've ever seen the Olympics, the sculls, the crews do this, right? So what you do is you go forward, you dip the oar in, and then you pull like this. Then you release the tension, you bring the oar, because the oar is here now, and you're pulling it like that with big effort, and the boat goes this way. But the water is going this way. You're going upstream. The water is moving this way. Once you get the boat out into the stream, if you don't engage the oars and pull, your boat's going backwards with the current, going backwards, right? So you, oh my God, we're losing ground. Oh, row, pull, and you pull, and you pull, and what happens? The current's going this way, and your boat is going. Who's laughing? Haven't you ever rowed before? Row your boat. Okay, so you're going like this. You're going like this. You're going like this. And there's a dock on the shore, and you see the dock is there, and you're going, oh, I better go. You row. The dock is good. And about 10 minutes later, the dock is back there because you've been applying steady effort. As soon as you go, I gotta check my email, man. I wonder if I get connection down here in the... Oh, there goes the dock, You go right downstream because you stopped applying effort. Just like Gongfu. Just like the Bodhisattva getting up again, one more day, out there meditating. Seems like nothing's going on, but the people who you started with together, that class, that mindfulness class, right, who had 20 people the first day, and then 10 people the next week, and then 5 people, and then those 5 people kind of gelled. Those 15 people who you started with who didn't stick, a month later, they're like, what's going on? And you're 1 month into your mindfulness, and you go, I actually had 30 seconds of stillness just now. As soon as my mind moved, the stillness went away, but it was 30 seconds. I never felt that before. I want to do it again tomorrow and have that experience. And the poor 15 people who started but quit, well, that's another thing that I probably no good at. I always knew I was going to be a failure at meditation. No failure, they just didn't do it. So, there you are. Here's the Bodhisattva. I love that analogy, right? The sailboat analogy. Carrying it through the woods on your back. It's like, this is really heavy and sweaty work. Put it down, turn it over, raise the sail. Smooth sailing. That's what it's like once you get through that barrier, through the gate. So, nifty. These spiritual classics, boy, they're just boring, impenetrable. Nobody can understand them. They're arcane, ancient. Nothing happens. It's like, this is so neat. It's a little lofty because this is the 8th ground, but I don't know. I mean, when I read this, it goes so deep. Somehow it feels like I'm getting a flashlight down in the basement of my mind, showing me what's down there. Okie doke. We had a interesting experience today. It was fun. We were invited by the community, our Dharma friends, Dharma brothers and sisters at Dharma Drum Mountain, Fagoshan. We were invited to go down to Milpitas, this little town south of Fremont, to dialogue. And the dialogue partner was interesting because it was Master Godong. Master Godong is the chief abbot at Dharma Drum Mountain. And I've met him on 4 different occasions before, but never had a chance to talk to him much. He was always in an official capacity and kind of busy. He's very busy. The Dharma Drum is one of the 4 major monasteries in Taiwan. And here's Master Godong in the flesh, He's been abbot down there for 11 years over in Dharma Drum. And we have become, our university, Dharma Realm Buddhist University, is sister school to Dharma Drum, 姐妹学校. And Jin Chuan Shi went to study Chinese there for a semester. Their special Chinese, Buddhist Chinese program, and their professor, Professor Du Zhengmin, was our Dharma Realm Buddhist University trustee. He's the one who put the Buddhist Tripitaka on a CD. Unfortunately passed away last year. But we've got this nice connection with Dharma Drum, and for the last 4 years now, every time I go to Taiwan, I go to Dharma Drum and give a talk. And that's a special thing. So we had a conversation today and down in Milpitas, and there were 400, would you say? They hear, is that what the cherry was, that 400, do you think? That was the estimate, Sandy?
The room capacity is 600.
Oh, wow. It was just, okay, 6. I think that's. I heard 400 or 500, but I was going low, so 600. It was full, and we had the Chuzhang of Taiwan, who was Taiwan's non-ambassador ambassador, was there, Mr. Ma, and he was spoke excellent English and was watching and listening carefully and stayed for the whole thing. I thought he would, introduce us and go on to some other event, but he stayed for the whole thing. So it was all in Chinese, all of it, no English. And that was, I was explaining that to some friends here, that every time I do that, I kind of pinch myself, that I'm there, the whole different persona, my Chinese person comes out, speaking in Chinese, and not understanding everything I was hearing, maybe about 65-70%, which is risky. Kind of like, I did have nightmares when I was a kid of being on stage and not knowing my lines, being pushed out on the stage and not knowing what to say, right? And it's a lot like that, because people are listening carefully to your responses to something that was said, and you didn't know what he said. So you're supposed to answer intelligently. Though you guess a lot and you infer a lot. That's scary. That's white knuckle flying, And if a lot mattered, if it really counted, if it was contract signing or something like that, you'd have to get a translator and slow down. But it's kind of fun to just carry it forward. And the best parts for me is afterwards, talking to people who were there. And, Jin Chuan Shi was there, Jin Fo Shi was there, and Jerry was there. We're in the car, and just analyzing, what are the differences? Because here was a chance for us to look at, kind of measure what our teachers dedicated his life to since 1962. Then in 1995 he moved on, he entered Nirvana and left us here to muck through it ourselves, right? How are we doing bringing the Dharma on? Because here was mainstream Taiwanese Buddha Dharma with one of the major players who was, doing what his teacher, Master Sheng Yan, left for him to do. We're both second generation disciples of founders. Master Sheng Yan brought Buddhism to the East Coast, Flat Pine Bush, I guess, is the name of the monastery. Dharma Drum is a big deal in Taiwan, and Master Godong is carrying it forward as best he can, and we're doing the same here. So it's interesting to compare and say what's different. How are we responding to the needs of Taiwanese Buddhist disciples and Western Buddhist disciples? That's really interesting to compare and see, because Taiwanese Buddhism has been around with Chinese Buddhism, and then Taiwan has developed it differently than China, but it's the same animal, for thousands of years. And over 1,000 years, it gets set. It's settled in a mold. Churches do that. Just when you have so many people doing the same things over and over and over again, it gets settled. And we have the blessing and the curse of being new. We're not settled yet. So we have the liberty to go left and go right a little bit till it gets settled. But the problem is, for example, I was the only Caucasian in the room of 600 people. Anybody notice that? That's okay. But you would hope that after all these years there'd be a few more who would look at the Mahayana tradition through China and would go, whoa, that really turns me on. So that's where we are. And what are we doing with it? That's the important thing. So it's good to reflect on that and to look at the differences. I got off a few jokes. People laughed. Not that that's important, but it's an icebreaker, Can you joke in a foreign language? The joke's on you if you think you're actually being funny there. And then when the other monk told his jokes, I didn't get them. It went by too fast. I couldn't laugh. So, boy oh boy, it's humbling to realize that how little I really understand about what's going on. But that's what happened today. It's fascinating opportunity, and I'm grateful to be there, What a privilege to be able to step into that tradition and see how it's done in Taiwan and understand that Master Hsuan was a reformer. Our teacher said, get this straight, what I am teaching you is not Chinese Buddhism. And it's not Vietnamese Buddhism. And it's not Japanese or Tibetan Buddhism. And it's not even Indian Buddhism. What I am teaching you is the mind ground. Pay attention. Watch your thoughts, he said, because I want to make Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and patriarchs and arhats out of you all. Right? So today, just one more thing. What I kept wanting to have happen didn't happen. And honestly, I got the feeling that if we had had this happen, the audience would have gone with us. I wanted to talk about real stuff. I wanted to talk about parents and children. I wanted to talk about young people who are their children. The audience was pretty much all over 40, I would say, but a lot of couples whose kids are ABCs and who are struggling to identify with the dominant culture but are Chinese. And when you're down in Saratoga and when you're down in Fremont, you have lots of Chinese and Indian and Vietnamese and Japanese friends Philippine friends to associate with, right? As soon as you get in a car and drive over to Davis, drive over to Sacramento, drive up to Reno, suddenly you're the only Chinese. Are you American? Are you Chinese American? Worse than that, you're a Buddhist. Everybody else is something else. That's what we want to talk about. How does that work? Do you, as a parent, have a way to let your kid be comfortable in their skin and proud of being Taiwanese, Vietnamese, Indian, at the same time understanding the value of what being an American means? And the best part of being American has nothing to do with skin color. It has to do with values. What you bring. That's the gift of America is, all right, show me what you got. Right? There's room for you here. Have a go at it. Show me your widget. If it's a better widget, we'll buy it. We'll sell it. We'll market it. We'll get it out on eBay. America buys and sells. We are the best marketplace the world's ever seen, and probably the briefest. It's another story. But there's that. There's that equality and freedom of opportunity that goes beyond skin color. You know, we're all immigrants here, except for the Pomos and the Miwoks and the Alonis, who we systematically wiped out. That's another story. So, anyway, to be able to say, yeah, I'm Taiwanese American, and my kids don't want to have anything to do with my Ami Tofo, Ami Tofo, Ami Tofo. Tell me, Dharma Master, how can I bring my kids back? That's what we could have talked about today. And not going to go there. What did we talk about? We talked about zizai xingfu. How to be zizai. Dharma Master, please tell us how to be zizai. Let's see, zizai. Translate that for me. Well, you know what it means. Zizai means, I don't know what it means. We couldn't do that. I couldn't challenge and say, okay, I have read books by Taiwanese, Chinese authors defining zizai, and at the end they said, well, this is a spiritual concept. Don't know. Xingfu, happy. How to be zizai. How to be free and happy. Master Hua translated it 4 different ways, right? Zizai. Now we are doing effortless self-mastery. How do we become effortlessly self-masters? Sure. Inner samadhi, dude. Cut off your afflictions. Next question? You know. So, yeah, that was the topic. You know, no, nothing, and who cares? People hear that about 30 seconds and they go, yeah, I can do that too. My kid looks at me and doesn't even want to come. I can't get my kid's eyes off their phone for 30 seconds at dinner. Don't tell me about zizai xingfu. My kids are strangers to me. They hate me because I grounded them when they got an A- in chemistry. That's where it's at. And we couldn't go there today. So, that's all right. Opportunity missed, but I was able to point to Cynthia and her monk son, because at least they're like opening the forum in Saratoga, conversation between the generations. But it was hard to go beyond that, to get it real, So that's okay. That's what happens when you get the church involved, the Buddhist church. You don't really get a chance. In Saratoga...
Here's what I found on the web for in Saratoga conversation between the generations, but it was hard to go beyond to get it real, so that's okay. That's what happens when you get the church. Have a look.
Involved. We'll talk later. That's scary. Thank you, Siri. Is that going to float out into the ozone forever and forever? We got that snippet out there, wandering out past Pluto? Okay. Anyway. So, yeah, it's great to talk about what happened because there's lots of aspects. When Shifu said, get this straight, I'm not teaching you Chinese Buddhism, what he meant was he's not importing the church. That's what he meant. He wants us to start fresh because along with the church, and I mean that in the sense of the institution, comes the baggage. Things like, for example, we don't talk to small vehicle, 小乘, 小乘. Small vehicle, we don't talk to them, Master Hua said, it's time to bring the northern tradition and the southern tradition back to the middle. You're the small vehicle, did you know that? I said, the 6'2" monk, Oh, really? And what does that make you, So that's the baggage, and that's what he meant. And a lot of the baggage is you can't really talk true because it's risky. Anyway, so that was a good experience, and we should do it more often. Meanwhile, speaking of which, let's now that I got that all tuned up, I'm going to set it down. And last week, Jin Fosher gave me feedback, and he said, I like that Earth Store Bodhisattva song we did. We did I Return and Rely on the Bodhisattva King of Great Vows, right? I thought next week we have an Guanyin Bodhisattva session coming up at City of 10,000 Buddhas. When does it begin, Jin Chuan-Sher? Okay, November 4th, couple weeks. Namo Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva Namo Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva Namo Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva Namo Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva. Try it in English. Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva Namo 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 Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva Guan 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 Yin Bodhisattva, 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 Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Guan Yin Bodhisattva, Guan Yin Bodhisattva, Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Namo Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Somewhere I have to stick in the pusa in there. Namo Guan Yin pusa. So it works, it works on a banjo. And somehow it sounds closer. I don't know. That's kind of our sound. And banjos give life to the blood. Banjos excite in a proper way, make you want to tap your foot. And it's hard to feel sleepy or dead with the banjo. So, might look at your calendar and see if you can fit in a Guan Yin Bodhisattva session at CTDB. That would be great. Those are very special times. Doug Powers and Jinchuan Shi have explanations. They have a class. How does the class work, Jinchuan Shi? What do you do?
We have orientation November 4th in the evening, and then there's kind of a whole day of orientation on November 5th, and the rest of the week Doug has classes in the evening.
Tell the time so people know.
On November 4th is actually the Purifying Boundaries day on Saturday evening. But for the people who are completely new, if you have friends who are going completely new, the DRBU extension, we actually have an orientation to introduce them to the CTDB, who's there. And then actually the following day, the whole day is actually an introduction to the session, how to recite, how to bow, why recite, who's Guan Yin Bodhisattva. And this is kind of people coming in straight off this, whose background may be mindfulness Buddhism. So Guan Yin Bodhisattva is a whole new idea. And then in the evenings, Doug Powers gives talks every night around the topic of Guan Yin Bodhisattva and some Dharma topic of interest. So, and actually, in addition to that, we actually have a small group supporting people through the week. So people have difficulties or need help. There's a kind of there's actual support, so you don't feel lost. Yeah. So it's November 4th to the 11th, if you're interested. But we have it once. We have 3 times a year the Guan Yin session happens. So if you miss it this time, there's another one in spring, one in summer, and one in fall.
It's not for sure you'll get the opportunity to sing Namo Guan Yin Bodhisattva at CTDB during the session, but you can, it's the same melody. So you're free in your mind to translate. You can say Guan Yin Pusa if you want to, it's perfectly fine. But you can also say Guan Yin Bodhisattva and make it your own. Guan Yin will definitely know it's you. She'll pick up your call if you recite her name that way. I wanted to, this is an appropriate moment. We have been emptying out our office of 20 years of accumulated papers mostly, and I ran into a journal entry that I kept from 1997, I believe. And I was in Taiwan, I guess it was 1998. I was in Taiwan, and the journal entry was about a guitar that I had taken to Taiwan with me. And It was a Big Baby Taylor guitar, and there's two people who shall remain nameless tonight for the risk of embarrassing them, who kindly, out of the goodness of their hearts, had made an offering to me of a guitar. It was called a Big Baby. There's a Baby Taylor, and this is a Big Baby Taylor. It's a travel-size guitar, and it's about that big, and it fit in the overhead bin of the airplane, and I could take it with me. It's the first time I'd ever traveled with a guitar since I'd become a monk, 28 years earlier. And the entry in the journal was how amazing to have that instrument with me in small dormitory or hotel rooms. And then a visit to Hualien on the eastern coast of Taiwan to the Kanshousuo, there's an English name, the holding pen of the Hualien criminal justice system, where people had been arrested for crimes but were in detention waiting to be arraigned for their potential indictment or whatever, or their liberation. And having this, we had this really wonderful layman in Hualien who is a volunteer at the penitentiary, which is for, maximum security penitentiary. And he took us to the Wai Jianyu, the relaxed jail for drug crimes and things like that, and the Kanshousuo, the detention center, which is uptight and scary and depressed and terrifying, and then the penitentiary where people are there for life, for murder and stuff. And there we were in the Kanshousuo, and I had my guitar, my Big Baby Taylor guitar with me, which is the first guitar I'd ever owned since I became a monk, since I was a folk singer back in high school. And I sang in English, how many times have you heard someone say, if I had his money, I'd do things my way. But little they know that it's so hard to find one rich man in 10 with a satisfied mind. I sang Satisfied Mind to the Taiwanese prisoners in the detention center, and not speaking any English, these guys were crying. Now, you can imagine how bad it sounded for them to break them to tears. I must have just, ruined the song. And they're like, oh, stop. It wasn't that. They were getting it somehow. And there was somebody, translating as I went. But these guys, and when I was done, the warden said, would you sing that again, please? Sang it twice back to back on my little guitar. And because I had the guitar and was willing to sing it, it broke the ice. And these guys accepted an American monk from Toledo, singing them Satisfied Mind and healing their hearts a little bit. It was a hit in eastern Taiwan in the detention center. And then we took it into the penitentiary, in there with the folks who are never going to get over the wall, ever, never going to get out. And having the warden there, Warden Zhang, who somebody told me, they said, if there's a Bodhisattva on 2 feet, it's this guy, saying, he said, no, these monks came all the way from America to give you the refuges and to sing their music for them, for you. He said, your bodies are here behind the wall, but based on their heart, they carry your spirit right over that wall. Did you go? These guys are there, yeah. So I just wanted to share I ran into that journal entry about that guitar and how wonderful and what value added that instrument made for me. So, deep appreciation. Transfer the merit. And any more announcements? Next week is a regular week here at the Berkeley Monastery. 金佛师没有啊？差不多了, huh? Okay. Should we do satisfied mind before we dedicate the merit? Do the whole thing? You promise you won't cry, right? Your hearts can, if you really can't stand it, you can fly out of the monastery before the song's over, you know. How many times have you heard someone say, if I had his, her, change the pronoun, money, they're rich women too. I do things my way, but little they know, it's so hard to find one rich woman in 10 with a satisfied mind. Once I was winning fortune and fame, Ming Li had all that I needed to win at life's game. Then suddenly it happened, I lost every dime. But now I'm richer by far, with a satisfied mind. 'Cause money won't buy back your youth when you're old, or a friend or a loved one, that's grown cold. The wealthiest person is a pauper at times, compared to the one with a satisfied mind. When my life is ended, when my time's run out, all my friends and my loved ones, I'll leave them no doubt. But there's one thing for certain, when it comes my time, I'll leave this old world with a satisfied mind. Anybody crying? No? Good. I thought of something. Guqin recital tomorrow. What time does it begin? 2 p.m. If you ever wanted to hear something wonderful that chances are you would not encounter outside of the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, come to the Guqin recital at 3 o'clock here with David Wong and his students. Anybody playing? Suzanne is going to be. Did you get a lot of practice time in Vienna? Not in Vienna. You didn't. Not in Vienna, but in Venice. In Venice. But you've been practicing since you've been back, so good. Tomorrow, Guqin individuals performances and ensemble. David has people playing together. It sounds incredibly wonderful. We are keeping the tradition of the guqin, the 7-string Chinese tabletop lute zither, alive. David is a wonderful teacher from San Francisco, 3rd generation San Francisco Chinatown native, and a real promising light in the future of guqin in America and the world. His teacher, Dai Xiaolian in Shanghai, really values him. Says he is going to be responsible for a renaissance of the guqin in the West. She tried to get him to come back to China to teach. So, okay, transferring the merit now. Here we go. Please make a wish. Every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief, and may this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, we'll see you all next week, same time, same place. We'll keep the Bodhisattva moving forward on the right-hand turn of the crossroad. And if it's the Tao, advance. If it's not the Tao, retreat from it. 识道之进，非道再退，在善而从，不善而改。Bow in respect to the Venerable Master.